Hey you guys, so today we're going to look at expressive color, and we're going to be using expressive color in our oil pastel self-portraits that we're going to be starting in the next class or two. Now what that means is that you actually don't have to just draw it realistically and use realistic skin tones on your self-portrait and everything. You can use whatever colors you want. But you have to bear in mind what each of those colors mean and what color schemes will do behind the meaning of the artwork. So with that in mind, we're going to take out those note sheets that I gave you at the end of last class, and under each number, I would like you to write adjectives about each color that you're seeing and what emotions it conveys to you, how it feels. Just describe what that color does and means to you as you look at it. So I'll do the first one with you just to give you an example. Alright, so this first one is red, and for me, looking at red, the first thing that comes to mind is it's definitely, to me, an angry color. It's very harsh, even just the color by itself, regardless of its connotations. It's very intense and really attracts your eye. It's very difficult to ignore. So I would maybe write angry, aggressive, and harsh, and maybe intense as well. But those are just some adjectives that I would think of. So for each of these, I'll give you guys about 15 seconds or so, and just write down the first thing that comes to mind. So this next one, 2, is yellow. And don't overthink this or take too much time on it. Just the first things that come to your mind and that you experience internally when you just see a big square full of yellow. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Number 3 is blue. Just jot down whatever comes to mind. A couple more seconds. Number 4, orange. And again, I'm not looking for objects like basketballs or oranges. I'm looking for adjectives describing the mood of each of these colors. Alright. Number 5 is green. Same procedure. Finish up your last word here. And 6, purple, violet, whatever you want to call it. What does purple make you feel? What would you experience if the entire world was purple for an hour? How would that make you feel? Alright, and the last one is black. Pitch black. What emotional qualities does black have to it? Alright, and so next we're going to take a look at a few historical examples of artwork using expressive color. And in the bottom section of your note page, you can go ahead and write down the names of each of these artists and jot down some notes as well on how they use color to create artistic meaning. So the first one, this first one is one that many of you might be familiar with already. It's by Edvard Munch. It's called The Scream. And obviously it has some fear involved, and it's a very intense, violent painting. But I would like you guys to just put your hand or your finger or piece of paper or something over your screen right in front of the figure in the bottom center of the painting. So just block out that screaming person for a second and just take a look at the colors used in this painting. And think about, if that person wasn't even there, what the mood of it would be. So with red and black, and lots of these kind of gross grayish browns, and then some blues as well, you've got a lot of really intense colors right next to each other, and all of them have connotations of either anger, like the red, or sadness, like the blue and the black. And even the black conveys anger as well. So when it's that specific combination, you don't see any bright, like happy, sunshiny yellow or anything. And so that combination of colors, even without any content in the painting, would create the mood that Edvard Munch is looking for. And our next example is by Pablo Picasso, The Old Guitarist. And this painting almost looks like someone took a lens of bluish glass or something and put it over the top. Everything in it is tinted with blue. Even the guitar would normally be more of an orangish brown, but because it's got this blue mixed into it, the whole thing is monochromatic. And blue is overwhelmingly a sad color. And I mean, even the term having the blues comes from the color blue. It's just representative of sadness, and it's also very peaceful in a way. It's not very harsh like red or even yellow. It's more subtle, more toned down. So Pablo Picasso, using overwhelmingly that one color, makes his singular meaning pretty clear to a viewer. Alright, next we're going to look at a couple examples by Henri Matisse. And both of these have pretty similar color schemes. He was one of the first painters in the French Art Academy to go against the grain by not just painting a realistic portrait, but actually using whatever colors he wanted. And in this painting, I can see at least one instance of every single color from red all the way through the spectrum. Now, this creates a few different effects emotionally. It automatically makes the painting pretty confusing. So it's not like the Picasso we just looked at, where it's just one color and you kind of know what that color means. In this one, you have every color, and so it's automatically just harder to decipher what Matisse wanted to say with his color scheme. But at the same time, that confusion and chaos can be indicative of maybe his response towards this woman, or even just maybe what the woman is experiencing, some sort of confusion. Now, at the same time, all of these colors are pretty playful as well. So there's a lot of ambiguity there. And as we look at the next material, so yeah, looking at this next Matisse example, we've got a pretty similar color scheme here, with just so many different colors, and they're all really intense. And as an artist, you actually don't have to make your meaning super clear. You can have an ambiguous meaning or make the viewer think about it more. So it doesn't have to be quite so obvious as maybe the Picasso meaning. But at the same time, bear in mind that if someone's looking at this, they might not know what you're wanting to convey about the person that you're painting, which in your case, with oil pastels, will be you in your self-portrait. Alright, so here we'll look at 3 different self-portraits by Vincent van Gogh. And he painted about 27 different self-portraits in his painting career. But first, I'd like you to imagine what all of these would look like if they were all 3 in black and white. They wouldn't have quite so much meaning to them because they'd all be the same. They'd just be a shot of Van Gogh's head and shoulders. But with the colors, they all 3 speak very differently to the viewer. So the one on the left uses 2 classic colors for anger, black and red. Black because it's so intense, it's the darkest color you can have. And red is actually the most saturated, most intense color you can have. So both of those extremes work well together to create unrest and visual tension and depict anger. The middle one is a lot more subtle, sort of yellowish, but lots of tans, lots of creams, a little bit of blue in there, maybe a little red. but mostly it's toned down in sort of this neutral zone of the color scheme. And that can create a much more ambiguous feel where the viewer doesn't know exactly what Van Gogh is trying to say in this one. But as a viewer, you also know that it just feels more calm automatically. And the last one, again, similar color scheme to Picasso here with the overwhelming dominance of blue. Maybe depicting sadness or regret or any sort of melancholy feel like that. And if you picture all three of these, again, as just being black and white, they would not have nearly as much individual meaning. They would all look basically the same. So with that in mind, we're going to next class make a few small practice sketches for our self-portraits of just kind of a general head, and use specific color schemes on the head and in the background to try and create specific moods, and thinking back to those notes that you took on each of those color slides as well, and what they mean. So think about, between now and next class, what you would like to say in your self-portrait about who you are on the inside, and then how you can apply some of these things that you've learned with using expressive color to convey that to a viewer of your self-portrait.